Hi, welcome to the Fit and Healthy Today show. Today our topic matter is on cataracts. Now, cataracts can either be developmental or degenerative. So what that means is basically it can happen to babies being born with it, or it can happen as a degeneration. And what that means is your lens, which sits right on the top of your eye like a camera, is very clear and it becomes cloudy and it slowly degenerates. In other words, you can't see clearly anymore. It's most common in the elderly, and I'm going to go over some of the causes in that regard. Now, it's usually progressive, slow progressive, and relatively no pain involved other than the frustration involved with not being able to see clearly. I've written these pretty much in the order that I believe is most important, and I know you probably are seeing I have on here excessive ultraviolet rays, which most doctors seem to put a lot of emphasis on. The sun. And obviously if you're light-eyed like I am, or blue or green-eyed people, we tend to have more sensitivities to the sun. But the key is it has a lot to do with nutritional deficiencies as to whether or not we are going to develop cataracts. Sun exposure is a contributing factor, but if we have adequate amounts of nutrition, it ain't going to happen. None of my parents have cataracts, neither of them, and they're both light-eyed people. Neither of them have them. So, nutritional deficiencies, particularly with vitamin E, vitamin B2, key B vitamin, known to cause that. Certain types of antioxidants, because that neutralize the effects of these ultraviolet light rays, which would also include things like vitamin D, vitamin E, selenium, vitamin C. All these types of nutritional deficiencies, either in pregnancy or in our own bodies, can lend itself to the faster progression or development of cataracts. Excessive meat and milk fats, saturated fats. You know, our eyes get fed with very small, fine little capillaries, and the blood flow needs to go back and forth in order to feed them. And if there's anything that clogs the vascular system fast, it's going to be saturated fats and excessive amounts of sugar. Sugar just literally over a period of time destroys the small little capillaries and vascular systems. That's why diabetics oftentimes see that their eyes are one of the first things to go. The problem with excessive sugar involving cataracts is it activates something called the sorbitol pathway. And sorbitol is a type of a sugar pathway. So when we have sweeteners such as sorbitol being used by diabetics, and you'll find that in a lot of sugar-free products, okay, we are supposed to take or have sorbitol when we have blood sugar issues because we worry about our eyes, and then we add it to our foods. That's a naughty no-no. So if you're a diabetic, do not use any sweeteners that has sorbitol in them. Hormone imbalances, fluctuations in that regard, particularly a lot of women in perimenopausal, or as men enter their perimenopausal as well, or their menopausal times for male. It's called male menopause. You'll see fluctuations in hormones that can affect the eyes, particularly in testosterone and progesterone levels, because those are anti-inflammatory by their nature, particularly free testosterone and natural progesterone levels. Improper calcium metabolism. So, in other words, you have either parathyroid issues or you have excessive amounts of calcium deposits cause an issue with the circulation to the eyes, because the calcium will build up on the vascular system, and that doesn't just mean the eyes, that means the heart and everything else that feeds the body. Liver disease, obviously responsible for a lot of hormone metabolism and 500 other different functions in the body. Toxemia circulatory, which is a contributing factor by some of these others. So if you have poor circulation going in, you're magnesium deficient, you have hardening of the arteries, that contributes to cataracts. Poor elimination. You don't eliminate well, guess what? The toxins get reabsorbed back in the body, and the oxidative, we call these oxidating, rusting. These oxidants cause damage to the eyes, the eye membranes, and to the lens tissue of the eye. Medications, certain medications and drugs will cause the eyes to disintegrate, particularly or the lens. Particularly if you're using things that are anti-inflammatory. Histamines are a major, or antihistamines, are a major contributor to cataracts. So if you're doing chronic antihistamines, or you're doing for your allergies, it's going to speed the process up. Prednisone. they're going to speed the process up of potentially developing cataracts. Vitamin C and antioxidant deficiencies. Remember I just mentioned about the oxidative process, the rusting of the eye, so to speak? Well, these antioxidants, particularly vitamin C and A, have an affinity for neutralizing the effects of this ultraviolet rays, but also the oxidation that can occur in the eyes and other tissues in the body. So we have, in my opinion, I have more customers walk in the store with what I call borderline scurvy. 75 years ago, a tomato would have, 300 or more milligrams of vitamin C in it. Now we're lucky if a tomato or an orange has 10 or 25 milligrams. So when your docs tell you can get it from your food, yeah, they live in the dark ages, 75 years ago. Not in today's world where the soils don't have minerals in which the plants can make vitamin C or natural vitamin C. Spinal lesions, particularly any inflammatory or lesions in the cervical area can contribute. And you're going, huh? Well, we've got nerves and blood vessels and all that feed the eyes. And believe it or not, the cervical column can contribute to eye issues. Remember where your ocular is in the back of your brain. So what happens if you have cervical issues? You're not going to have as good a circulation to the ocular area as well. And then we already talked about excessive ultraviolet rays. When you have cataracts, or if you're trying to prevent cataracts, I've written some key diet information. Eliminate milk and most, I should have a T on there, saturated fats. So that includes meat fats, any fat that solidifies in normal room temperature is something, if you have cataracts, you want to decrease. Now, milk fats is kind of interesting, particularly if you're lactose intolerant. If you do not have an ability to digest milk, you're lacking that lactase enzymes, oh man, that will speed up the process, one of the quickest for the eyes. A lot of people, or a good percentage of people who are lactose intolerant, who continue to do milk products, develop cataracts at a much swifter rate. There's some good studies that back that up. Eat nuts and lots of organic vegetables. Remember nuts, walnuts, almonds, pecans, and then also fish, avocados are full of essential fatty acids that reduce vascular inflammation. They keep things running smooth, kind of like I used to say oil to the Tin Man. They lubricate, keep everything flowing a little bit better. Foods rich in lutein and zeaxanthin. So those types would be your spinach, your broccoli, your kale, any of those that have those heavy concentrations of greens. But what I tell people is eat a multitude of colors. Because remember, we see in color, so guess what? If you want to see the colors out there, reds, blues, all, you have to eat those colors in order to be able to see it, in addition to prevent the damage to the eyes. So blueberries, for night vision, they help you distinguish between, light and dark. In this particular case, in cataracts, we want a lot of rich greens and yellows and oranges and reds. Those are the most important when you're talking about the eye and prevention of cataracts. Mostly plant-based proteins, and I'm not advocating a vegetarian diet unless that's your choice, but I can tell you, if you don't choose lean, grass-fed beef and lean pork, you're going to have high saturated fat content, which is going to lend itself to inflammation both in the vascular system and to the eyes, contributing to cataracts. Now, if you are diagnosed with cataracts, or you're starting to develop it, I think a periodic 7-day juice fasting is not a bad idea to eliminate toxins, get rid of the heavy metals, which can also contribute to cataracts and to the floaters that we see in the eyes that people complain about at high amounts to their ophthalmologists, which can kind of generate the body's getting rid of these toxins that could be speeding up the process. Elimination of toxins or keeping toxin ingestion, including pesticides and other chemicals, over 3,000 in our food here in the United States, is a doggone good idea if you want to have good eye health as you grow into your senior years. The supplements, and all of the ones I've written down here, all have studies to back them up. And I really get disturbed when I hear customers tell me, my doctor says that has no studies to back it. And that's false. It's just the doctors haven't taken the time to review their medical journals and look at the studies. So, all studied. Medical journal, peer-reviewed, university studies. Okay, so here we go. Vitamin C, Harvard Medical School, 2 to 15 grams, so 2,000 milligrams to 15,000 milligrams, prevention and treatment. And it also lowers intraocular pressure. So if you have glaucoma, you better be hitting your vitamin C levels. And so any good ophthalmologist out there should be putting you on some good vitamin C if you have any circulatory issues to the eye. And most macular degeneration, all those types of issues, all have a lot to do with circulation to the eye. Bioflavonoids, particularly if you're diabetic, they inhibit diabetic cataracts by reducing the aldose reductase enzymes in the eyes. And so it inhibits that enzyme, which converts sugars into sorbitol. So ester C with bioflavonoids. If you want to prevent it, do it, particularly if you're diabetic. Zinc and copper in a balance. It actually heals and retards the growth of cataracts. In addition, we've got issues with immune system, lower reduction of prostate cancers, all of those. And once again, most of our fruits and vegetables are very, very mineral deficient. So a good multiple vitamin, high in B vitamins, but that also has a balance of minerals in there that are amino-chelated, good quality. I'm not talking about going to your local food warehouse, grabbing the big giant K vitamins there, the K brand, and it having 17 toxic substances in it and vitamins that have a 4 to 5% absorption rate. No way. It needs to be good quality. You need to look for that. And if your body's like mine and you want to treat it like a Cadillac or a Mercedes, then you're going to feed it the things that will keep it running well. And it isn't the cheap stuff. Selenium. Now what's interesting is because a lot of us have amalgam fillings, I got one left, we can get mercury buildup in our brain and heavy metal buildup. No matter what the dentists say, they're wrong. It does build up. It built up in me. 100 micrograms, just a minimal amount, which we know is extremely anti-cancer and prostate cancer, prevents mercury-induced free radical damage caused by mercury that can contribute to cataracts. Vitamin D2, or B2, very, very well studied. 25 to 50 milligrams twice a day is phenomenal for prevention. So, like I said, a good multiple vitamin, high in Bs. You're going to get that dosage if you follow my instructions on that. L-lysine. Now, lysine in combination with proline and vitamin C and bioflavonoids induce collagen formation. That's that stretchy, pliable tissue in our lens tissues, our vascular system throughout our body to prevent the hardening of the arteries, and which enables then, thus, the feeding of the lens tissue in the eyes. Lutein with I always misspell this word, zeaxanthin, and it's 20 milligrams of lutein esters per day with a little bit of this particular carotenoid. It's very protective and extremely well researched as well for macular degeneration. In the ocular medical journals, it's there. Bilberry extract, we know this from World War II that it helps with night vision, but it removes the toxic chemicals from the retina of the eye. And we're kind of like going, removes something from a berry? Yeah. That's why you're seeing so many studies come out on the news or whatever about berries. Blueberries, all of your berries are very antioxidative on the eye tissues. Natural vitamin E. Actually, literally 200 to 400 milligrams of vitamin E can arrest and reverse cataract formation. Because remember, vitamin E aids oxygenation. So helpful if you get oxygen to the eye, vitamin C and some of these other things. And none of these things are expensive things. And you're not going to get it in your diet. It just ain't going to happen. Carnosine eye drops. Now the government kind of took these off the market, but there is a company, I know we have them in our stores, that makes a carnosine eye drop that you can topically apply, and it literally gets rid of that glycation buildup in the lens tissues of the eyes. Grapeseed extract. I know a lot of physicians will recommend grapeseed extract because it's a very strong antioxidant for the capillary system and improves the circulation. That in combination, once again, with vitamin C and bioflavonoids, anytime you can increase that circulation throughout the body or in the eyes, you're going to have those little capillaries that feed the eyes the nutrition that they need. There are surgeries and options out there for cataracts as well. That have been very perfected in that regard, and they can remove those. But you know, I'm always of the opinion that an ounce of prevention, or is the word, what is it? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And so if you can prevent this, treat it if you've got the minor development of it, and see if you can reverse it. Like in the mention of the vitamin E, I think you're going to be in a much better route to go without having the surgery. Next, we're going to be moving on to the fitness portion of our show. Thank you. Welcome to the fitness portion of our show, and we're going to work on some exercises that maybe you can do when you're on vacation and you don't have any equipment. I had a couple of my customers that are going off to Hawaii with their partners, and so they wanted to have a few strength training exercises they could do since they're going to be away from the gym. So I wanted to show you 3 different exercises that you can do, and you can do at home at any age, which is pretty cool. With, you know, as far as consideration of injuries, I mean, you should always consult your doctor if you have any injuries. But the key is these are usually relatively safe because you're in complete control. So let's go on and move on to these. These were developed by Charles Atlas. He was the original pump you up kind of guy, and he would teach people how to use their own body as resistance to help with muscle and muscle tension, tendon and ligament strength. So the first one I'm going to show you is for biceps, and it involves resisting with one and pressure with the other. So I'm going to act like I'm going to do a bicep curl here, but I'm going to resist with my own resistance. So I bring it up, and what's interesting is it involves my bicep, but if you were to see it, it also involves my tri on this side. So this is a good bicep, tricep type of workout because I'm going up and then I'm pushing down. So this is 2 exercises actually in one. You can change the angles, inner or outer, depending on what portion of the bicep and tri you wish to work, inner or outer heads. So that's 2 in 1. The next exercise is a shoulder resistance exercise. Now, this one I think you should do with care, particularly if you have any rotator injuries. Basically what you do is you put your position, you can put it farther or closer because it each works the different heads of the shoulder girdle a little differently. But what you're trying to do is you're going to try to push up, and I'm going to bring this hand across at about a 90-degree angle, and I'm going to push up on this and resist. And I'm going to tell you, I can feel that all throughout my shoulder girdle, all the way on this side here, and then as I'm pressing up over here, I can feel it all the way in my tricep and back through my delts as well too. So practice that, try that out, something maybe that you can do on vacation, or if you just want to get pumped up before you see your honey and you want all your muscles to stick out, you can give that a try. Anyway, next we're going to be moving on to the research portion of our show. Thank you. Welcome to the research portion of our show, and with us today, with the latest greatest, is Ralph Turchiano. Ralph?
And thank you for the intro. Now, you know what they usually say about these commercials that come on, say, you know what they say about high fructose corn syrup. And the person at the other end just says basically nothing. What have you heard about high fructose corn syrup? Well, here's a little bit more on high fructose corn syrup that they do not want you to know. Out of the Journal of American Society of Nephrology, they discovered that high fructose corn syrup tends to raise blood pressure. Now, by how much? Well, about 74 grams will raise your blood pressure, or it's what, about 26%? And 74 grams is about 2.5 servings of soda, which may sound like a lot until you start looking at how many servings of soda are in a can of soda, or a 16-ounce bottle, and sometimes a 32-ounce bottle, even higher if you're going to a movie theater or someplace like that. Well, for each 2.5 servings of soda that you had, your blood pressure went up 26%, 30%, and 77% respectively. So 1, 2, or 3 plus cans of soda. Something to think about. Also, a channel did not include in this news segment, which was also there, they found that high fructose corn syrup dramatically increased the size of fat cells in growing children. So there's a lot about high fructose corn syrup. Research it. Don't make them look like an idiot as far as those people in those commercials who just respond with nothing. It's a very craftily conceived commercial which takes a harmful product and makes it seem like it's not harmful. Outside of that, let's go to fertility. Really interesting study coming out of Tel Aviv University. And I got to give the Israeli universities a lot of credits. They've come out with some spectacular progressive research. Well, in this case, it's about getting pregnant. Well, they took two groups of women, basically on a placebo, and a substance you all heard of called DHEA. Now, I usually don't like messing around with prohormones, but this time they got some pretty darn interesting results. How interesting? Well, the women taking DHEA increased their fertility by 3-fold. Not only that, over placebo, I should take that back. Not only that, the children born to the women taking DHEA, well, let's put it this way, they were healthier and they had more live births. The data goes as this. The fellow researchers conducted a study which control group of women received treatment for poor ovulation. Another group received the same treatment with the addition of the DHEA. The latter group took 75 milligrams, that's usually a high dosage, of the supplement daily for 40 days before starting fertility treatments and continued up to 5 months. Not only were the women with combined infertility treatment with DHEA more likely to conceive, the research discovered they were also more likely to experience a healthy pregnancy and delivery. Again, it's a prohormone, something you definitely want to talk to your doctor about in regards to it. Seems to be very effective and fairly safe, but still, each case is different. So before going off and using DHEA on your own, especially in those dosages, have someone you can work with, some healthcare practitioner or so forth. Now, on to cancer. Well, tons of money being spent on chemo drugs, radiation, surgery, and so on and so forth. But you want to know a really interesting way they found to reduce cancer, or it should say tumor sizes? Well, let's start with the thing. Reported in the journal, or the July 9th issue, I should say, the journal Cell, a Cell Press publication, said, quote, housing upgrade shrinks tumors in animals with cancer. Animals' interaction with the environment has profound influence on the growth of cancer, more than we knew was possible, said Matthew during the Tufts, or I should say the Ohio State University, one of the researchers. They discovered when they took mice or other animals from a small group of, I'd say about 5 or so, and they put them in an area with 15 to 20 mice in a larger environment where they said they had more things to do, toys, hiding places, and running wheels. And they all had cancer. Something amazing happened. How amazing? Well, the enriched environment, the animals tumors mass shrunk by an impressive 77% on average, with the volume decreasing by 43%, the researchers report. 5% of the animals that had cancer showed no evidence of the disease after only 3 weeks, just from having a more enriched environment. The same improvement was not seen in animals that were exercising. They said, quote unquote, from the study, a lot of people think stress is bad, but our data show the animals aren't just happy. Antidepressants will not give you the same effect. In fact, the animals show higher levels of stress hormones than the glucocorticoids. Can't pronounce that right now. The goal isn't to minimize stress, but to live a richer life, socially and physically. You want to be challenged. So it gave them something to live for, and that's part of what basically these animals probably resulted in lower tumor size, mass, and some of them cancer-free. And they said, very interestingly, we're really showing that you can't look at a disease like cancer in isolation, During said, who's one of the researchers. For too long, physicians and others have stuck to what they know: surgery, chemo, and radiation. Traditionally, working on the area of lifestyle in the brain has been a soft area. The paper really suggests if we look at people more in the terms of the perceptions of disease, their social interactions, and the environment, we can realize we have a profound influence on cancer. There is no reason to suspect our findings will not be generalized. So, makes you wonder. You spend all this money going bankrupt on chemo or radiation, or maybe a cruise and a vacation may be better treatment for your cancer. Interesting. Be kind of interesting to have a controlled, double-blind, placebo study on that if you can possibly do it. And now for those with Candida albicans, a very interesting vitamin that's very effective they found in it. It doesn't kill the Candida albicans directly. What it does affects an enzyme that Candida albicans needs for reproduction, HST3. What is it? Niacin. Of all things, it surprised me. It says, a form of vitamin B3, the niacin, reduced Candida albicans virulence. Both normal and drug-resistant strains of Candida were susceptible to the niacin. In addition, the niacin prevented the growth of other pathogenic Candida species, such as Aspergillus fumigatus, another human pathogen. Thus, it's demonstrating the broad antifungal properties of niacin, which was a surprise to me. They said also, quote, an important first step in the development of new therapeutic agents to treat fungal infections without major side effects for the patients. This all coming from the Institute for Research in Immunology in Cancer. And now we go back to vitamin E. Of all those people bad-mouthing vitamin E, for the longest period of time, they discovered one thing. You cannot use just D-alpha tocopherol. You have to use all parts of vitamin E, all 8 isomers. And what was the study in regards to? Well, the July 2010 issue of the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease. What they did is they found out most people were only investigating one of the components of vitamin E, not a whole vitamin E, just part of it. But they hypothesized what would happen if we used all the components of vitamin E, all 8 isomers. And they found out it was incredible at protecting against Alzheimer's disease. They took seniors and followed them for 6 years. They discovered the ones with the highest levels of vitamin E in their blood, all the isomers, not just this D-alpha tocopherol stuff, and especially not D-alpha tocopherol, synthetic. They found out they reduced their incidence of Alzheimer's disease by 45 to 54%. Not bad for vitamin E. Something to think about next time you're considering taking a multivitamin. Make sure it's all parts of the vitamin E. Go to a good health food store and they'll explain it to you. And now for fish oil, but not just fish oil from fish, but fish oil from supplements. They discovered when women were given fish oil supplements, they reduced the risk of breast cancer down by 32%. And I said again, in supplement form. They don't know exactly why, but they believe it's because of the highest dosage. And I'm going to run right through this article and basically go to antioxidants and cardiovascular disease. Well, I have to finish it up here. I'm being cut off. But thank you very much for the information, and thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ralph. I appreciate it. Sorry we had to cut you off on that, getting a time limit. Research for yourself. Look at these articles. They're a lot of good information. Thank you very much.